Well, I finally saw Sinners, and yes, it's a masterpiece, genius even. But the director's reinterpretation of the vampires, I think, has caused some confusion. What do they represent? White people? Irish people? The man? The music industry? But I don't think any of these hit the mark. In this video, I want to present what I think is the true deep philosophical meaning of the juke joint and the vampires that other people might have missed. Sinners, at its core, is about one struggle, the sacred versus the profane. What do I mean by this? The Sacred and the Profane is a book by Mircea Eliade, and in it, Eliade introduces two kinds of places, the sacred and the profane. He explains in the book that a sacred place is a kind of place that once existed to all spiritual pre-modern people, a kind of axis of the world where time and space is oriented and where the past and future are linked. It's a place full of meaning, a place that defines the universe and yourself and allows you to transcend both. Examples of sacred spaces are Mecca, a holy tree worshipped by an indigenous tribe, and a totem, for example. These places root a people, bridging time and locking the world, in a sense, to a particular space that is infinitely special. The profane space, on the other hand, is the opposite of the sacred. In a profane space, place is formless, meaningless, and homogenized. Think American suburbs, or a shopping mall, or a Starbucks. These are non-places. They mean nothing, and they do nothing to the human soul. In a profane space, there is no specialness, no particularness. Time is not bridged, but passes by in a sequence mathematically. This is the kind of space the vast majority of us are familiar with today. In Sinners, the juke joint is a sacred space, and it is so because of the music. The director makes this clear in his bold and daring scene of black musicians from different eras being combined into one space. The dancers are transcended through time. Suddenly the world is revolving around them. They have had their roots ripped away from them physically, but they can create a sacred space and bridge time, anchor the world in a deep way through music. In the midst of oppression, they are grounded somewhere, but at the same time free. It is a semi-religious experience that transcends their tough circumstances and anchors them back in time to a culture stolen from them. The vampires, on the other hand, represent the profane. The vampires are both literal and metaphorical vampires, sucking both the blood and the lifeblood of the culture into a collective to be together forever, and yet to be assimilated and lost, just like cultures are when they are assimilated into a profane space, where things are commodified, bought and sold, measured and copied, and everything is just as special as everything else. Profane society is attracted to sacred spaces and cultures. It wants to suck them into the collective. The culture becomes a fashion, a cliche, a logo, a business. It becomes a meaningless commodity traded for cash. The totem becomes a fashion item. The sacred clothes become a brand or a lifestyle statement. Remick hinted at this when he offered cash to get in, probably ancient gold from pre-Roman times before Ireland was Catholicized. The stroke of genius in this movie is when Remick said that he knows the Lord's Prayer because men saying that prayer came and took his land. This elevated the vampires beyond any group of people, but to an abstract, profane force of assimilation and culture death. And I think Remick is jealous of what Sammy has, because Remick remembers and pines for the old days in his own culture when he had a sacred space. And we can see that in the joy in his face when he dances. He can never return to that sacred space, so he wants to suck them into the gaping black hole of the profane, where all cultures can mix together and be equal, and thus not mean anything at all, lose their grounding and their particularness. This movie was definitely about the particular experience of the African Americans, but I think it transcends race. I think white Americans watching this also felt something, knowing their European roots, while not forcibly erased like those of the African Americans, have been lost in the sands of time, assimilated, maybe persecuted like the Irish, or just plain forgotten. This movie at its deepest level is about culture death, and something sacred to a culture that anchors them in time and space being taken away, being devoured. The juke joint is sacred because people there take a stand against the profane, and because of the music, one of the only things linking to their cultural past that they have left. It was the music that the profane wants to absorb, and the reverend of that religion that conquered both the ancient Europeans and African Americans wants Sammy to give up. And he doesn't. That's why the movie is called Sinners after all. In the end, we see the return of both Sammy and the vampires. And you can note the vampires are wearing the trendy fashion of the times. Sammy seeing the vampires again fits well because sacred time is always cyclical. The sacred must always be reenacted, reasserted, resung. The juke joint may fall, but the memory survives. The story remains. The music is still there. The Axis Mundi, the center of the world, the center of a people, is not destroyed. It is rebuilt again and again. That's how the sacred survives the profane, through ritual, through place, through refusal. Sinners is a horror film on paper, but the blood and violence wasn't that scary. The true horror was the cultural violence of being devoured, but maybe the truest horror of all, that the world of the profane doesn't need to destroy the sacred to win. It just needs us to forget. Thanks for watching.